Hi there, I'm Shane, and in this video I'm going to be talking about my current setup for the Sony A7s3. This is a very budget-oriented, lightweight build that is very versatile and designed for an on-the-go sort of shooting. And in this video I'm going to talk about all the parts that I use and what I might recommend for you if you're looking to build a similar setup. So recently I made a video reviewing the Sony A7s3, and in that video I mentioned I like to use a cage on my camera, so this is a video about my current cage setup. In the description of this video I'm going to be including links to as many of the parts as I can that I talk about. However, they're not going to be affiliate links, and this video isn't sponsored in any sort of way, so there's no monetary motivation to any of the things that I say. These are just products that I like and I use in my setup. The rig that I use is a constant work in progress, and as I make changes to the setup or I swap out cameras, I hope to make an updated version of this video to discuss the changes that I've made. With that said, the current setup that I'm using is a very lightweight and versatile rig designed for single person operation for a very on-the-go sort of shooting. The main disadvantages to my current setup is that there's no rails on the bottom of it, so you can't mount accessories as easily to it, and with that there's no external power options, so you're limited to the internal battery life of the camera, which on a long day can be quite annoying. And lastly, there's no matte box for it, so you're reliant on circular filters and polarizers to cut the light of your shots, so it can be kind of annoying swapping those out. However, you gain a lot of reduced weight when you have all the accessories cut off it, making it much easier to operate while you're just moving around quickly. Fundamental to this setup is the Sony A7s3 and my lens of choice currently, which is the Sony 24-70 f2.8 G Master. I use this lens because I find the zoom range is extremely versatile, as well as the low light capability of the f2.8 aperture allows for a lot of versatility in indoor and outdoor environments. However, the lens is not at all required, and prior to using the G Master, I used the Tamron 28-75, which is a completely adequate lens. I just didn't love its picture profile as much, so I switched over to the G Master. The real foundation of this setup is the cage that I use, which is from Small Rig, and unfortunately I think it's already been discontinued. However, they've added a new one to the lineup, and there's also options from Tilta and other brands that are completely adequate. The main idea is it just provides 1/4-20 screw threads that you can attach accessories to, as well as having more mounting points for straps and handles. On the topic of handles though, on the right side of this cage is probably the most important part of this setup, which is a small strap that I use to secure my hand while holding onto the cage. There's options out there from Small Rig, Tilta, and Peak Design, but I found all those were a little bit too loose for my preferences, so I actually made my own, which is simply just the strap that comes with the Sony A7s3, and I cut it up and made it into a very secure but still adjustable setup. I find having this strap here gives you a lot of peace of mind because you can still adjust your settings while still getting a good grip on your camera without killing your fingers when you're holding it for a long time. So having a strap here makes it a lot easier to use it while still having the peace of mind that you're not going to drop the camera accidentally. Moving on to the top of the cage, the theme is Nato Rails, and I have a small one mounted to the top of the cage that allows me to attach a handle or my monitor too. On the front of the handle, I have another Nato rail so I can attach the monitor to that if I so desire. To connect them, I have a small double-sided Nato rail clamp made by Small Rig, which allows me to attach my monitor, which is also in a cage from Small Rig, which is the Atomos Ninja 5 with the official Small Rig cage on it. This monitor is awesome, which I made a review on actually recently. However, it is a great external recorder that allows you to have external RAW and a whole plethora of monitoring features that make shooting a whole heck of a lot easier. The key disadvantage to using so many Nato rails like this is that it does add a bit of bulk and additional points of failure that can loosen up while you're going. While screws though might be a little more secure, they're a whole heck of a lot less compact and versatile. So the nice thing is you can change your configuration on the go if you want to be on a gimbal or shoulder rig very easily with this setup. And you also can pack the cage down super small because everything comes apart in a matter of seconds. Moving on to the left side of the cage, the key thing I have here is a 15mm rod that I have attached to the cage via a small rig mounting point, on which I have two main items, the first of which is another Nato Rail mounting point, which can double as a cold shoe. I find this is super convenient for attaching shotgun mics, external recorders, or wireless transceivers, and you can adjust the angle that is at quite easily, making it very versatile, while very lightweight and, as always, easy to take on and off. The next thing on here is my Tilta mini follow focus. I find this is a super handy little unit that allows me to convert a lot of my photography lenses to having a little bit of an easier time to focus with them for video. And on most of my lenses, I have these little seamless focus gears from Tilta as well, which make them much easier to have an infinite sort of rotating wheel, which is awesome because there's no hard stops on any photography lenses from Sony, so you can pull focus a lot easier with them with this combination. There are a few other little accessories that I have attached to the cage that you might have noticed, such as the Peak Design anchors for attaching my camera straps to improve my stability when I'm moving around, and again to provide an additional point of safety so I don't accidentally drop my camera. I also have the HDMI securing clamp that came with the cage from Small Rig, and even though the A7S3 does have a full-size HDMI port, which is a lot more reliable than the really rubbish little ones that came on Sony's old cameras, I do find there's a little bit of give still with the A7S3, and this just provides an additional point of security so that it doesn't accidentally disconnect while I'm shooting. The last item is this cheese plate on the bottom of my cage, and I attach my tripod plate onto here. The reason I do this is that when I put the camera down, the weight of the cage isn't resting on the lens, but rather on this little mounting point. And it also is handy because the center of gravity of this cage is pushed forward because of the lens and the monitor, which means that when I mount it to a tripod, it's already somewhat balanced, so I don't need to adjust my fluid head as often or gimbal when I mount it to it. That's it for my rig though. I know it's not a terribly fancy setup, but it's what works best for my current shooting style and workflow. If you have any suggestions though on any ways I can improve it, I'd love to hear them. And if you have any questions or requests for future videos about different shooting styles or how you might be able to best implement certain parts into your setup, please feel free to ask in the comment section. I'd love to hear them. Anyways, thanks again for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video.